The summons arrived on a Tuesday. Cale Davin found it on his desk at the Cultural Documentation Office at the Secondary Accord Embassy, sitting between the quarterly ceremonial reports draft and the cross-reference index he had been building for 6 weeks, unremarkable in its placement, but immediately remarkable in its character. The Varath Sovereignty's royal seal pressed into the specific, deep-red wax that the royal communications used and that no other communication used. He read it. He read it again. He read it a third time and a fourth time, and then he set it down on the desk with the specific, careful quality of someone setting down a thing that requires the careful setting. His name, the palace's inner receiving chamber, the 14th hour. Nothing else. He was 34 years old. He had been doing the cultural documentation work for 11 years, 3 of them here, at the Varath Sovereignty's secondary embassy, cataloging the public ceremonials and cross-referencing the Varath cultural database, and producing the specific, methodical reports that nobody read until they needed them. Not the senior diplomat, not the cultural attaché whose name appeared in the significant exchange records. The person in the office at the end of the corridor with the indexing system and the documentation archive and the particular, unglamorous function of making the institutional knowledge findable. He took the summons to his senior colleague. She had 40 years in the cultural documentation function and the specific, complete quality of someone who had seen everything the 40 years produced, and who was, in the having seen, present in every new situation with the particular, unshockable quality of the long experience. She read the summons, she looked at him over the document, she said, "What did you do?" He said, "I don't know." She said, "You know." He was quiet, she looked at the royal seal, she said, "Go, don't be late." Whatever it is, being late makes it worse. He went. The walk to the palace had a quality he had not experienced in 11 years of the cultural documentation work. The specific, compressed quality of someone walking toward the significant consequence of something private becoming public. The particular, honest character of the private feelings exposure present in every step of the walk through the capital's streets. He had walked this route 37 times. He knew the specific quality of every section, the market district's noise and the administrative quarters ordered quiet, and the palace district's particular, formal character. He had walked it with the documentation function's professional attention 37 times. He walked it now with the different quality. The private journal, 3 years of the private journal, he did not know who had seen it. He did not know how it had reached the palace. He knew only that the journal existed, and that the summons existed, and that the 2 facts were connected with the particular, obvious quality of the connected facts. The palace gates received him with the court's professional quality, the formal acknowledgement of the summoned person, the escort through the institutional spaces, the particular, complete quality of being conducted through the palace toward the inner receiving chamber with the professional efficiency of the court that had done this function many times, and that was, in the doing, present in the doing with the full quality of the practiced function. He had never been in the inner receiving chamber. He had documented it. The cultural specialist's thorough documentation of the palace's functional spaces included the inner receiving chamber's description, the specific, intimate quality of the room designed for the direct conversation rather than the institutional performance. Not the throne room, not the public audience hall, the room where the Queen spoke directly. He stood outside the door, he thought about the private journal. He thought about the 4 pages written 3 weeks ago after the autumn ceremonial, the specific, careful documentation of the Queen's handling of the disputed border petition, the particular quality of the honest answer given when the institutional answer was the available answer, the complete attention given to the junior official who had presented the challenge with the visible fear of someone who knew the challenge was unwelcome. 4 pages in the private journal. The escort opened the door. The inner receiving chamber was exactly as the documentation described it. The table, the 2 chairs, the window's eastern light coming through at the specific angle of the 14th hour's quality. The particular, intimate character of the space that was built for the direct conversation, and that was, in the building, present in the space with the complete quality of the honest architecture. No ceremonial arrangement, no formal distance, no institutional staging. 2 chairs at a table. She was already there. Queen Varath Sovereignty, 38 years old, 11 years on the throne, the specific, complete quality of the governance's full weight present in the person with the particular, honest character of someone for whom the weight was the genuine weight rather than the performed weight. He had documented her 37 times in the public ceremonials. He had never been in the same room with her at this distance. She was sitting. She looked at him. She gestured to the opposite chair with the specific, direct quality of someone who was managing the space with the honest directness rather than the institutional formality. He sat, she looked at him. The looking had the particular, complete quality of the genuine assessment, not the institutional acknowledgement of the summoned person. The specific, direct quality of someone who was reading the person in front of them with the full quality of the honest attention. The same quality he had documented 37 times. The complete attention. The silence had the honest character of the significant silence, not the uncomfortable silence that required the filling, the particular quality of someone giving the silence the space it needed to be the honest container for what came next. She said, "Tell me." He looked at her, he said, "Your Majesty, I." She said, "No, not the formal version, tell me." He was very still. He had prepared 3 formal versions on the walk here. The professional framework, the cultural documentation specialist's private observation as the extension of the documentation functions professional practice. The contextual explanation, the specific, accumulated quality of the cross-cultural work producing the particular, personal engagement with the cultural subject. The institutional language, the careful, managed version of the private feeling in the public register. She was asking for none of them. He looked at the table. He looked at the window. He looked at her. He said, "I attend the public ceremonials as part of the documentation function. The autumn ceremonial, the spring petition session, the quarterly trade acknowledgements. I have attended 37 public ceremonials in 3 years. Yes, she said. The documentation function requires the observation, he said. The specific, careful observation of the ceremonial's conduct and the Queen's handling of the ceremonial's content. Yes, she said. And in 3 years of the observation, he said and stopped. She waited. She waited with the specific, patient quality of someone who was in the honest space and who was, in the being, giving the honest space the time the honest space required. He said, "In 3 years of the observation, I noticed the specific, complete quality of how you handle the difficult thing. The disputed petition. The uncomfortable truth from the junior official. The moment when the institutional answer and the honest answer are not the same answer." He looked at the table. "You give the honest answer, every time. I have 37 ceremonials of documentation, and the pattern is consistent across 37 ceremonials. The honest answer, even when the honest answer is the harder answer." She looked at him, and, she said, he looked at her. "And," he said, "I wrote about it in a private journal, not the official report, the private journal. The honest observation of the pattern kept in the private space." "What did you write?" she said. He looked at the window. He said, with the quality of someone who had decided, in the moment of the deciding, that the honest answer was the only answer available in this room with this person who always gave the honest answer. "I wrote that the specific quality of your governance was the most genuinely honest quality I had encountered in 11 years of the cultural documentation work. I wrote that the honest answer given consistently, even when it is the harder answer, is the rarest quality in the institutional space." He paused. "I wrote other things." "Tell me the other things," she said. He looked at the table. He told her. He told her about the autumn ceremonial 3 years ago, his first. He had arrived with the documentation function's professional attention, the cultural specialist's trained observation. He had watched the ceremonial with the professional quality. He had noted the structure and the Queen's handling of the formal elements, and the specific, institutional character of the governance function performed in the public space. And then the disputed border petition. A junior official from the Eastern settlement, young, visibly afraid, presenting the petition with the compressed quality of someone who knew the content was unwelcome. The petition challenged the established trade route arrangement. The established arrangement had benefited the Senior Trade Council for 7 years. The institutional answer was clear. The 7-year arrangement was the settled arrangement. The Queen had listened. She had given the junior official the complete attention, the same quality she had given the Senior Trade Council's representative 3 petitions earlier. Not the diminished quality of the junior official's acknowledgement, the complete quality. She had said, "The petition's assessment is accurate. The established arrangement requires revision." The Senior Trade Council had produced the significant displeasure with the particular institutional quality of the significant displeasure. She had said, "The revision will begin in the 3rd quarter." He had documented it officially. He had written in the private journal that night, The complete attention given equally, junior and senior, this is the rarest quality. First observation. He told her this. She listened. He told her about the spring petition session 18 months later, the junior infrastructure official's uncomfortable truth about the Eastern Corridor's maintenance, failure that the Senior Infrastructure Council had been managing through the institutional language's particular capacity for the managed acknowledgement. The truth presented by the junior official with the genuine fear, received by the Queen with the complete attention, addressed with the honest answer rather than the institutional deflection. He had written, she does not deflect. Third observation now. The pattern is not accidental. The honest answer is the consistent quality, not the situational quality. He told her the 4 pages, the autumn ceremonial 3 weeks ago, the disputed border petitions handling. The specific quality of the honest answer given when the room's pressure was toward the institutional answer. The complete attention given to the petitioner who had come prepared to be managed rather than heard. He told her what the 4 pages contained, the observation and the documentation and the specific honest record of the pattern across 37 ceremonials. And then he stopped at the edge. She waited, he said. And the private record, the specific accumulated quality of 3 years of the documentation, had produced, alongside the official record, the particular complete picture of the person the 37 ceremonials had revealed. The person underneath the governance function, and I wrote that the private record of that person was, he stopped, was the most significant personal document I had produced in 34 years. The room was very still. She looked at him. He looked at the table. He said, I understand if this requires the formal consequence, the private journal's content reaching the palace, the cultural documentation specialist's private observation of the Queen. I understand if the formal response is the appropriate response. She said nothing for a long moment. He waited with the honest quality of the honest waiting. She said, Who told you I was angry? He looked at her. No one, he said. The summons, she said, says, the inner receiving chamber, the 14th hour. It does not say the formal consequence. He looked at her. No, he said, it doesn't. No, she said. He looked at her. Then, he said. Then, she said, tell me what you thought when you read the summons. He looked at the window. I thought, he said, that the private thing had become the public thing and that the public thing required the formal response. And now, she said. He looked at her. Now, he said, I am not certain what the response is. She looked at him. No, she said, you are not. She stood. She moved to the window. He watched her move with the honest attention of someone who had been watching the public ceremonials for 3 years, and who had, in the 3 years, documented the particular quality of this specific movement, the way she moved to the window when she was in the thinking. Not the institutional movement, the thinking movement. He had noted it in the private journal. At the autumn ceremonial's 3rd difficult moment, she moved to the eastern window, not the performed response, the genuine thinking response. Third observation of this pattern. She stood at the window. She said, the honest answer given consistently is the rarest quality in the institutional space. He was very still. Those were his words. She had read the journal. He said, you read it. Yes, she said. He looked at the table. The complete journal, he said. Yes, she said. He was quiet. Then, he said, you know the complete content. Yes, she said. He looked at the table. He said, I did not intend for anyone to read it. No, she said, I know. The private space, he said. The private feeling in the private space. Yes, she said. She turned from the window. She looked at him. Tell me, she said, what you believe the summons was for. He looked at her. The formal consequence, he said. The institutional response to the private journal's content becoming the palace's knowledge. And what is the institutional response? She said. I don't know, he said. I have been trying to construct the appropriate institutional framework since the summons arrived, and I have not been able to construct it because the situation does not have the clear institutional precedent. No, she said, it doesn't. He looked at her. Because, she said, the summons was not the institutional response. He looked at her. Then, he said, she moved from the window. She sat not the Queen's formal sitting, the particular direct quality of someone sitting in the chair across the table with the full quality of the genuine sitting. She said, the honest answer given consistently is the rarest quality. Yes, he said, I wrote that. 3 years ago, she said. Yes, he said. And in 3 years, she said, the documentation has produced the private record alongside the official record. Yes, he said. The private record, she said, contains the complete picture of the person the 37 ceremonials revealed. Yes, he said. She looked at him. And the private record, she said, is the most significant personal document you have produced in 34 years. He looked at her. Yes, he said. She was quiet. He was quiet. She said, I have been on the throne for 11 years. Yes, he said. In 11 years, she said, the governance function has produced the institutional space, the formal correspondence, the official assessments, the strategic documentation. She looked at the table, the institutional picture. Yes, he said. The institutional picture, she said, is the complete picture of the Queen. He looked at her. No, he said. She looked at him. No, he said again. The institutional picture is not the complete picture. The complete picture is the 37 ceremonials private record, the honest answer and the complete attention and the window when the thinking is required and the junior official receiving the same quality as the senior official. He looked at her. The institutional picture is the official record. The complete picture is the person underneath the governance function. She looked at him. She looked at him with the full quality, not the Queen's institutional quality, not the formal register's character. The specific, direct quality of someone who was in the honest space, and who was in the being, present in the honest space with the full quality of the genuine presence. Yes, she said, the person underneath the governance function. He looked at her. And in 11 years, she said, the private record of the person underneath the governance function has been, she paused. Absent, the institutional space does not produce the private record. The institutional space produces the institutional picture. He looked at her. The summons, he said. Yes, she said, was not the formal consequence, he said. No, she said. He looked at her. He looked at the two chairs, and the table, and the window, and the eastern light, and the inner receiving chamber's honest architecture, and the complete journal read, and the 37 ceremonials, and the private record, and the person in the chair across the table. Vara, he said. Her name, not the Queen's formal designation, not the institutional address, not the official register's title. Her name in the honest space of the room that was built for the direct conversation, said in the register of the direct conversation. She looked at him. The specific quality of someone who had heard their name in the personal register and who was, in the hearing, present in the hearing with the full quality of the genuine response. Not the institutional response, the genuine response. Kale, she said, his name in the Varath personal register, not the cultural documentation specialist's designation, not the official title. The name in the register of the honest space, the particular, complete quality of his name and her voice giving it the specific character of the genuine acknowledgement. He looked at her. Outside the inner receiving chamber, the palace continued its function with the institutional quality of the significant institution. The court, and the governance, and the formal spaces all doing what the significant institution does in the ordinary hours of the ordinary afternoon. Inside the inner receiving chamber, the cultural documentation specialist and the Queen were in the particular, quiet space that the 37 ceremonials and the private journal and the honest answer and the complete attention and the window and the summons and the name said in the honest register had built between them. Not the formal consequence, not the institutional response, the honest space, where the private record was the complete picture, where the person underneath the governance function was the person in the chair across the table, where the name was said in the register it deserved, the summons answered, the honest space present. Outside, the 14th hour moved toward the 15th. Neither of them moved to leave.
If you don't want to leave me alone in this world, follow the channel, because in the next story, I may choose you.